Alright, today I'm going to be doing some welding on my convertible Firebird. I got some ground effects that were on there that I took off because it's a 91. And what I did is I used that mesh stick-on stuff on the back on some of the holes, and I put filler over the top. That works as a temporary thing, but it's not really forever. Best way to do it is actually to weld it in. And so I got a MIG welder here. It's Lincoln Electric, but this thing doesn't have any gas, and without the gas you don't get a really good bead of weld when you're welding. Every welder knows that. Yeah, it's possible to weld, and I'm going to weld with it, but that nice thick bead, it's just not going to happen. You're going to get a lot of little pinholes in your welds and stuff, but that's the only option I have. I don't have any gas, so a friend of mine let me borrow this. And so last time I welded the other side of the car, because half of it's done, I just took little square chips. I put it, I used this stud gun here, H&S 4500. Well, this thing, you put these little stud pins in here, and then it kind of tack welds it to whatever you put it on. A lot of people use this for body work to pull out dents. What I did to it was I actually put a stud on this little square, then I put it through the hole from the backside, and I used the stud to hold it while I weld. I know a lot of people use magnets. You can use a magnet as well, but that's the way I did it. I'm an amateur at welding, just barely learned a couple years ago. It was the easiest method for me. I didn't want to sit there and try to make a perfect circle and then put the circle in there with a magnet, hold it there, and then weld it. I just figured just put it in the back and weld it up. It'll be just as good from the surface. Another way you can do it is, if it's a small enough hole, real small, you can literally just weld the hole in with the flux wire. You don't really need anything. I had to make another one of these for the hood scoop, and actually I did one last night. Came out okay. I actually used snips to cut most of it. It was a little wavy. I had to kind of bang it with a hammer to get it, because the snips tend to bend the metal when you cut with it. And then right here in this little area, these three spots, I think I used, what did I use? I used the angle grinder to get whatever little spots I couldn't reach. Alright, so a fun day. I'm going to have a fun day of welding. I actually enjoy welding. It's pretty fun. Make sure you got a helmet. This one's got auto darkening to it. I set it always to the highest level, so it's dark, which I think this one is 13. 13's darker than 9, 10, 11. That's be lighter. So I have sensitive eyes. Last time I welded on like 10 or 9, and I kind of had like spots, seeing spots afterwards. So I didn't like that. So I like to go on the dark level, 13. And that's about it. I'm gonna get going. I gotta use the angle grinder and grind the holes where the holes are. Make sure there's down to metal, because you want to weld on metal, not onto paint or anything like that. Alright, so when I bought this car, it's a 91 Firebird convertible. When I bought it, it had the arrow wing, the wing that wraps around here all the way. And actually on this car, it was a little different, because it's a 91. I don't think it's an exact arrow wing. It was a little different. It had like this plastic, had this trim that went all the way down here. But of course, I'm just gonna put the regular Knight Rider style on, so that had to come off. And when I took it off, you know, you have this gap here where it collects water, and then it either runs down here or it has a little drain hole about right here. But you could see that drain hole. It didn't look good, so I had these made up, these little pieces of metal that would hide that. But what I did is I put some filler down, and then I put this piece here, and then I glassed over it, and I put filler again. And when I had the car painted, you could actually see the raised part right there. So I didn't like that. So what I'm gonna do this time, and I already did it on the other side, I'm gonna take this back off, cut it right here on top, make a cut, and then I'm gonna hit this metal down a little bit so it's kind of sunken down, and then I'm gonna weld that line right here at the top. and then I'll put some filler over it if I need to at the end. And that way, when you paint the car, you won't see a raised spot in your paint like it did before. And I already did this side. I'll show you this side how it looks. You can't even tell. It looks factory. I welded that in. Got a little weld thing here I gotta sand off. But yeah, came out real good. So now when you have the top down, you know, the drain plug, the drain hole, you won't see that, because when the rain gets in here, it does drain out through that hole. And then the metal screws in from the inside over here. There's 2 screws there. So that's what I'm going to be doing as well. I got some more, couple holes. I'm going to weld those in. Got a couple over here. These ones are real small, bottom ones. And I'm going to look around the car because I know there was a bunch of ground effects. So I'm going to find every little hole that I had and try to weld them in, because I'd rather have them welded than filler. Because filler, you know, it's you know, plastic, so that stuff can eventually break and fail on you. So you don't want that to happen when your car's painted. Alright, here's the reason why I don't recommend fiberglass over metal or fiberglass connected on top of resin or anything like that. Check this out. Look at all that rust. Surface rust starting to form there. Not only that, even though it was sticking to the resin in the fiberglass, even though there was filler on it, you could see how much it's pretty thick in filler. So it was originally nice and feathered out, nice and smooth. You couldn't tell this was there. But when this heats up with the sun, it starts, I don't know, it starts expanding and contracting, because it's not one piece, it's not welded on. So it eventually raised up from the heat, because this gets hot and the filler in the fiberglass heats up, and then it started expanding, and then pretty soon your paint job had a little, you could actually see the line right here in your paint job, even though it was all nice and flatted out with filler. Yeah, that's not the proper way to do it. So this time I'm gonna weld it. Like I said, I'm gonna cut here, right up on top, pretty much where this line is. Move a little bit farther, and then I'm gonna have to grind all this back off. All right, that cleaned off really good with the angle grinder. There's no rust. It was just surface rust. So now I'm gonna cut this a little shorter, because it doesn't need to be hanging way down here. Cut it up here, and I'll weld it up here. And yeah, it doesn't need to be hanging down. That's just going to cause problems in the paint. The higher up the better. You could see how much filler I had on that, and that didn't have any effect on keeping this from showing through the paint, because eventually it heated up and it separated from the metal because it was not welded. And never again will I have that problem once I weld this. You would think cutting this is fairly hard to do, but actually with a good pair of snips, the cut's fairly easy. I'll show you what I mean. You know, it's like 13 bucks for these things, 15 bucks. See that? Cut through it like butter. It's really not that hard. If you don't have a cutting tool, you can just use snips. Okay, I got this thing cut. Got it in place where I'm gonna weld it right there on top. You can see I marked it with a marker, and now I'm going to put some tape on this side, and I'm going to take some etch primer and shoot it up in here on this edge, because this part is not going to get any weld, so you don't want it to rust from underneath, from the inside. So you want to etch primer this and protect it, make sure it's clean. And you want to etch primer this whole side, which I already just grinded it down again. So I etch primer the bottom, because that's not going to be welded either. And then we'll just leave that bare metal. We'll do our weld, we'll do our bead, and then we'll grind it down. And if there's any, you know, pinholes or whatever, we'll put some filler over it. It's probably not going to be a nice bead because I don't have gas. MIG welding without gas always tends to splatter a lot and shoot sparks. It sounds like fireworks going off when you do it without without your gas. So I'll do the best I can, get a nice bead on it, and it's fairly thin metal, probably 20 gauge, so should be fairly easy to do. And then again, I'll put some filler over any imperfections. What I did is I did hit it down a little bit with the hammer. That way it's not a high spot later. You could also hit it down in place. Make sure it's got the contour of the car. I want it up, I want it nice and flat, just like that. Alright, I'm going to shoot it with some edge primer now. Alright, got it masked off, and I'm using SEM self-etching primer, black color. Did 2 coats. And I put 2 coats on this one. That's all it really needs, just for protection. Just don't want it to rust out later on. Alright, here's a welding spoon. It's pretty much copper. The welds don't stick to the copper, so this is good for smaller holes, real small. I'm going to do this on a couple of the small ground effects holes and see how it comes out. Quick video of my 4-season bumper that's on my convertible that I just took off, and you can see that I have it mounted to the actual bumper on the shelf. Let me turn it for you. So the scanner bar, I have it mounted with the screw. You can see the screw right there where my thumb is, and that goes through the shelf, and I got a nut at the bottom holding it on. Not only does that keep the scanner down and keeps it from a gap down here, it also keeps the bumper more straight, because that bar is it's a steel bar and it's completely straight, and the slam panel on these cars are somewhat curved. I'll show you what I mean. See, the slam panel kind of goes down at an angle at the end. It's not completely flat straight, and it's not very strong either. You can push it down with your hand fairly easy. So I mean, another way you can get this slam panel up is by raising it here. You could probably put a screw, one of those long threaded screw, from your impact bar to this, and just lift this up, because it will go up somewhat, or you can bend it. Some people got gaps, so that's one way you can lift it up there instead of using a shim. Crap. Alright, and that's how you weld a hole, and that allows you to fill in holes just like I did there. And it's the first time I did it, and it actually worked pretty good. Last time I put a bunch of metal chips in the back, and I didn't have to on the little holes, so that kind of sucks. So after you do that, you get your angle grinder, and you're gonna grind that down, and if you got any holes, you could always weld it again and fill any holes you missed, or just put some filler. So that was easy. You didn't look, did you? Alright, this one's a 36 grit. This is more like it, because that metal's pretty hard. Hard to grind off. Alright, as you can see, it's pretty smooth. There is a little crack there. I could just weld that crack a little bit. It's a hairline crack. Or you could just put a skim coat of glazing putty or regular filler right there. But I'm a perfectionist, so I think I'll weld it again. Okay, close your eyes.
Okay. Go for it.
That's all needed. Oh, got my glasses. Always wear safety glasses. You don't want to be blind by the time you're 40. Alright, so now you can see the weld's nice and smooth. There is a little bit, tiny bit cracks. You can hardly see it, but you can keep on tacking it where those little cracks are if you want. Or you can leave it and just, like I said, just put filler over it. And that'll never break. So now I'm going to work on this one. It's kind of hard to reach your hand in here with the spoon. Okay. Oh shit, I almost forgot my helmet.
It's just too hot.
Safety, safety, safety. It's super hot today. I don't know, what is it, 90?
No.
100?
Hundreds.
Okay. So try not to rush even though you're baking to death alive. Oh. When that happens, and I hate when that happens, get something to cut it. You don't want it sticking out so far. Cut it back real short. And then go and try to do it again. I probably don't have a very good ground on this fender because it's painted, primed. Wow, this is tough to do in the heat. Alright, let's grind that down. Alright, so that's kind of a sloppy weld there. Still got some holes in there, but I'm super hot and I can't really function when I'm this hot, but it's not a big deal. You're just going to weld a little bit more where there's little pinholes where you missed. Alright, got these welded in holes. Did pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's okay. That's what filler's for. You'll fill in any little spots there. That's a lot better than just putting filler in a hole with some little tape on mesh on the back. That won't hold up for years and years. This will hold up. Okay, next thing I gotta do, come back over here and weld this up. Just want to hit it down a little bit. So now instead of having the seam line way down here like before, which you'll see it at an angle, it'll be way up on top on the very top curve, so you won't notice that. Especially I'll put a little skim coat of filler over that when I'm done welding it. Alright, now it's ready to weld. Alright, it's not a perfect weld, but I'm not a professional welder. But it's good enough. I'll grind that down and see if there's any more spots I gotta touch up. Alright, looking better. Put another bead of weld. Probably could stop there and just put some filler in there. Might do one more bead around here, around that side, maybe a little bit more here in the bottom. This side's pretty good. Yeah, not bad for an amateur. The whole point is to get it all one piece. That way when you paint this thing you don't see any lines. And when you mold that metal together, it's the only way to do it. Alright, that's good enough. I know it's got a sharp edge there a little bit, but that's okay. A little filler in there will fill that in, then I'll round it out with the filler. The whole point of this weld is so when this metal heats up now, it's not gonna expand because it's connected to the car now. So now when I paint it, even if it's got fill over it, it's not gonna expand and it's not gonna show the line of it. So that's why I had to do it like that. Before I tried fiberglass. Fiberglass does not stick to metal too good. I don't recommend it. Best way to do it is repairs with metal to metal welding. Alright, here's a couple more welds I did right here, a couple holes. These ones were a lot bigger, about like that long. Yeah, I used the this copper wheel, put it back there behind the hole. It doesn't stick to this, so it helps you out to make your weld on big holes or any holes. And this thing worked out good. It was only about 10 bucks, Harbor Freight. So yeah, I welded it 2 times because I had a couple little pinholes going through it, so I welded it again. And I actually had to use the angle grinder because I had the weld so high up. It was about a 1/4 inch up, so it was too much for the angle grinder. So I used my for my yeah, that angle grinder. But for this one, it was cake. Walk in the park with this thing. But yeah, that's the way you do it. That's the way you want to fill your ground effects holes. It's kind of a pain in the butt. Not everybody's got a welder. I actually borrowed this from a friend. They sell them at Harbor Freight for about 100 bucks for cheap ones. You want to do it yourself. But yeah, that's the way I did it. That's the right way to do it. Last time I did it the wrong way. I used filler, and filler doesn't hold up on big holes. So do it the right way if you want a good looking kit. So thanks to the welding spoon, that's what it's called, welding spoon. I didn't have to use the old method where I took one of these metal pieces, held it in the back with a magnet or a stud, put a stud in it to hold it, and then weld it from the back side. So then you got an ugly piece of metal in the back, which is no big deal, but this is just a lot better to do, a lot cleaner. And here's that plate. I put some edge primer on there because I'm not ready to add the filler yet. It's not perfect, but it's smooth. A little bit nuts, a little bit of a catch there, but overall it's pretty good. I mean, you're gonna put some filler on there and you'll never notice it.